You're listening to Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio, Inside the News. Let's go back to Guy, Ben, and Frank.
Well, welcome back to our Picking Up the Pieces segment. This is Inside the News. Thank you so much for joining us on this day, on this weekend. And we've got one weekend to go to Super Bowl, which is the next weekend, in which our guys will try to predict next week who will win. And that should be a fun program as well as we go inside the news. And it's not inside the sports, but it's inside the news. Okay, we teased a little bit about the Lincoln Project, Ben, and go.
Well, the Lincoln Project is a group of quote unquote Republicans, and this is becoming an interesting phenomenon because there's a new group doing the same thing as the Lincoln Project, which were a bunch of never-Trumpers, anti-Trumpers, doing everything they could to advance the Democratic agenda and the Democratic vote. So to call themselves Republicans is just nonsense. It is clear to anyone who has any level of objectivity that the Trump leadership of the Republican Party led to a reawakening of the voter base for the Republican Party and points to a future for the party, as opposed to the Romney view of the party, which is just to be more corporate elitism, more of the deep state, go along to get along type of approach. Lincoln Project was that. They raised a lot of money from wealthy Democrats who, wrap themselves as being Republicans. And it turns out that one of the founders has been a closet gay kind of predator when it comes to chasing after young men. He's a middle-aged guy with a wife and kids, but he has chased aggressively after young men for years. This has been well known in Washington circles for a long time, but it finally broke the news when a lot of his targets, a lot of young men who are targeted by him, have come out publicly against him and publicly exposed his aggressive approaches through social media. So it's roiled the Lincoln Project. It kind of one of these where you get what you deserve. It goes around, comes around. So the Lincoln Project did nothing but try to smear Donald Trump, and now they can enjoy the reality in return.
All right, Frank, you can go packing the court, or you go impeachment 2.0, go.
Well, it's been a heck of a long time since I graduated law school. But one of the things I do vaguely remember is that before you brought someone to trial, they had to have done something wrong. In the case of impeachment 2.0, there's nothing there. The comment that Donald Trump made while in Washington was not incendiary. It was not provoking or promoting or giving an excuse for violence. This second impeachment is as phony and as made up as the original Russian collusion and Ukrainian conversations in the first impeachment. It shows that the Democrats are so eager to distract you from real issues that they will come up with these phony issues because they know they can't win on the real things. They're wrong on taxes. They're wrong on foreign affairs. They're wrong on individual rights. And so they continuously have to come up with distractions. That's what this is.
You know what is surprising to me here, Ben, is that they went right in, they just took a vote and boom, it was done. I mean, it wasn't presented to the Judiciary Committee. It didn't go through all of the normal steps that an impeachment would go. It was just like, we're going to take a vote. Yeah, okay, let's pass it on. That didn't surprise you at all. But I mean, isn't it interesting?
Well, it's the type of thing you can get away with when the media is in your back pocket and is in fact an arm of the Democratic Party. So there was no case presented against Donald Trump. There was just a vote. It was purely partisan vote with a handful of some handful of Republicans, 10 or so House representatives who I don't know what they were thinking, got caught up in the emotion of the moment. And, it'll go the way of the first trial. There's not even remotely enough votes to convict Donald Trump, which requires a 2/3 vote in the Senate. So we'll go through this farce. It is completely unconstitutional. It is clear that the impeachment is designed to to remove a sitting president, not to assault a private citizen who has left office. So it's completely unconstitutional. The Chief Justice is not presiding. It's just a complete waste of time from A to Z. And of course, the Dems will pay no price for it because the press will not hold them to account for this farce. And that unfortunately, that last fact is why you get a lot of these excesses, because there's no press left to hold the Democrats or Republicans for that, well, Republicans for sure, but hold the Democrats to account for these excessive off the rail things that they do.
All right, this is Inside the News. We're going to take our final time out. We're going to be back and talk a little bit about packing the court, and then the guys will also have their hot button topics. We're going to take our final break. We'll be back.
Getting to the heart of the matter. Here's Guy Wehman, Ben Brunson, and Frank Vernuccio with more Inside the News.
Welcome back to our final segment of Inside the News. Glad to have you with us this week. And as every week, we thank you, our listeners, and our viewers on AUN TV, AUN-TV.com. You can find our website, itnradio.com. We thank all of our radio affiliates across the country. Thank you so much for joining us and for carrying the program. And if you like the program on your particular radio station, give them a call next week and say, we really like Inside the News with Guy, Ben, and Frank. Okay, Frank, let's get right to it. Packing the court. And this is really going to be quite interesting because nowhere in the Constitution does there say there has to be 9, but they start packing it even more. It's going to be interesting.
Well, it's more than just the Supreme Court. Part of the discussion in this committee that President Biden has put together is whether they should be a lot more district court and appellate court judges. So expect to see that come. And of course, we all know what the result will be. This biased committee put together with left-wing Democrats is going to say, well, we recommend that there are more judges. This way, the president and his chief supporters in the House majority and the Senate majority say, well, this isn't just our idea of trying to steal the majority in the court. This is the report of a commission. We're just following their suggestions. We all know this process. It's been done before. The fact of the matter is, you can expect to see district court and appellate court judge packing before you see the Supreme Court packing. One of the great accomplishments of the Trump administration was to balance the partisan activist judges that have been in place for so long with more objective judges. That was a great victory for Trump. This committee is going to be put together to take away from that. The next step, of course, would be to try to pack the United States Supreme Court. It's a dangerous issue, one that President Biden is afraid to touch with just another executive order, because that might be one of those Fort Sumter moments where the public, which is already angered at the high-handed way that Biden is governing with executive orders, will become inflamed. And I think that could be a real problem for the Democratic Party. This committee is a way of getting around that.
You know something, Ben, when Frank was saying the Supreme Court packing, I thought, do they even have their concealed carry permit yet?
Well, we've had a 9-member Supreme Court by law. I think the law was passed, if memory serves, in 1856, but I might be a decade or so off there.
Well, let's ask Frank. He was alive then.
I remember it well.
But so you have to change the law in order to change the number of Supreme Court justices. But it is true that it's relatively easy to do because it's not a constitutionally set number, unfortunately. So it's on the table. And if the filibuster goes away, that's among the many things that could happen and could drastically change the future of this country. I think a lot of Democrats are nervous about going there, but we'll see what happens.
All right, Frank, your hot button topic this week.
Policy issues have life. They have danger. During the 8 years of the Obama administration, we saw an unexplained tilt towards Iran away from America's traditional allies and friends in the Middle East. That policy is being brought back by the Biden administration. The fact is, there is, as George Bush once said, an axis of evil. That includes Iran, China, and Russia. What Joe Biden is doing in tilting towards Iran and going to reestablish the Iran nuclear deal is tilting away from America's friends and allies and towards that axis of evil. Beware of the consequences and also beware of the reality that this is being done against the wishes as a whole of the American people. Iran is not popular, but Biden's going to do it anyway. And I think that tells you everything you need to know about the mindset of this administration.
Okay, Ben, your hot button topic this week.
Well, we talked a lot about graft on this show and its impact and pernicious effect around the world and Myanmar, and certainly in the United States and what's going on. I'm going to pick on one target. We could talk about hundreds of people, but Janet Yellen, our newly confirmed Secretary of the Treasury, had a great reputation historically. She was the chairman of the Federal Reserve. Years ago, I spoke about her background, very academic background. She decided to ride the graft gravy train as well. It turns out she received over $7 million in speaking fees in the last 2 years before becoming Treasury Secretary. $7 million, that's a lot of speaking money. All of it being paid by big banks, investment banks, and some hedge funds, including big checks from Citadel, which is one of the big hedge funds involved in the GameStop situation. Not on the loss side. They came and bailed out some of the losing hedge funds, but the inside graft and money that is flowing through Washington, D.C. has destroyed our system of governance. And if Janet Yellen is susceptible to that, well, everyone is susceptible. It shows you that it's open season everywhere and among everybody in Washington.
Well, with Janet Yellen and her speaking fees, they just wanted to see a female short version of Yoda. Oh, that was terrible. Hey, Ben, thank you so much for today.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you to our listeners.
And Frank, thank you.
Great being with you. I'm going to go shovel about 2 feet of global warming outside.
There you go. Thank you so much for joining us on Inside the News, and join us again next week when we once again go Inside the News.
You're listening to Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio, Inside the News.